It worked.
There she is. Okay, hold on just for a second. Everybody out there, we're having some technical difficulties in getting Darlene in here. We'll be on just in a moment.
I got bad lighting.
Oh, it's okay. It is okay, ma'am. We're
I got
actually live right
feathers.
we're actually live right now, so you'll have to give me just a moment. I'm getting you formatted right now on the screen,
Okay.
and everything will be good. I promise. Okay.
I was toying about getting some sunglasses to wear too.
It would have worked out perfect
It would
for the
have.
superstar that you are.
Well,
I would have liked to have seen that. I can only say I would have liked to have seen that immensely.
I only thought of it now, but they're kind of like bat, and they're purple, and they got this.
You're doing absolutely nothing to tell me that I don't want to see you in those.
What is that thing?
All right, everybody who's out there live in Twitch land. First of all, let me get my own fine feathered friend out here right now, back in effect. I'm Carlos A.S. Lising, and this is caslTawk. I'm here today with the beautiful and talented Darlene, Mistress of Maps. How are you doing today, Darlene?
I'm doing great.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to have you here on the show with us. Darlene and I, for those of you who don't know us very well, we go way back. Darlene and I first met each other when I was working on my project for Fireland. I reached out to her, and we've started a friendship that's gone on for several years now. So I couldn't be happier to have you on the show right now with me. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this. And first of all, I want to go ahead and I want to talk about, with no further ado, going into our show here. Um, let's talk about what you're doing right now for your first projects right now. What kind of things are you working on as we speak?
Oh, I've been working on a myriad of things. I'm trying to get my Patreon a little fuller. I'm working on the story of Jasmine.
Right, right.
Mostly
Okay.
through Patreon, and it's a 40-year-old story that used to be in the Dragon magazine, was published in I think it was 1980, and it never got a chance to blossom.
Right, right. For those
And
of we'll be talking a lot about Jasmine a little bit later. For those of you who are not familiar with Jasmine, this is the card game for Jasmine. And for those of you who would like to support Darlene on Patreon, you may do so at the following at the bottom the bottom link right beneath our faces there on Twitch. It's www.patreon.com/Darlene_artist. Darlene, as far as your everyone out there probably knows you best as an RPG artist, and in
yeah,
particular, an artist for TSR and a creator of the original Greyhawk map. But you have a lot of other things out there that you've done in the past, a lot of different other projects. Could you tell us a little bit about some stuff like that, like Mythos Arcanum that you've been a part of?
oh yeah, hold on a moment.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. In the meantime, while Darlene is going to get her stuff, Castle Entertainment right now, I'll tell you a little bit about, well, actually, she's back. Hold on. Go ahead.
Well, it was only right back there.
Oh, that's okay. I was prepared for class too.
Oh, oh, you've got one too. All right.
Yes.
So this book was really got me back doing art again. I had quit doing art for many, many, many years. And Joe Aragon had contacted me, really, really wanted me to do this. And I said, well, give me the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that it was for people to learn what he calls philosophic gaming, where there's a sense of accountability. So you can't just randomly slaughter all these creatures and people and elves or whatever and not face any consequences, which made a lot of sense to me. And so I thought, yeah, I can back that.
Right.
And so I've got like oodles of drawings in here.
Right.
It was really fun to do.
And Darlene, I also understand that you did the entire interior layout of the book, which is
Oh
presented in
yeah,
a much different way than normal RPG books are. Could you tell us a bit about that?
oh yes. He had already had somebody laid it out, and it was like so I thought, no, well, I went back to school after I left Lake Geneva for graphic arts. So I have a master's in design, and I just used all I knew just to put things in a really nice. Graphic design is supposed to make things easy to read, things easy to find. It's supposed to be
User friendly.
accessible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it reminds me of a story in the 1980s when I was criticizing the design because it was done by people who didn't really know design. I'm not talking about the books. I think I was thinking about the Dragon magazine. I'm not quite sure, but the comment back to me was, oh no, these people really like bad design because it makes them really work for it. And once they get through the text, then they have a sense of accomplishment. And I thought, that's
that is so non-intuitive.
So I thought, no, I'm going to design it right. And so Tim Kask saw it and he goes, oh my God, this is the best design thing. So if you want to know how it's supposed to be.
Right, exactly. Like I said, I wanted to post up there on the bottom of the screen for all of our viewers out there, the Patreon at which you could go ahead and you could back Darlene's work there on Patreon, whether it be with Jasmine or you just want to support the artist herself, who's been so formative in a lot of our RPG and a lot of our experiences as growing adults. I know, Darlene, you were a huge part of my life. I've told you a million times now, especially when we were first meeting, how important you were to my growing up, and we'll touch up on pieces of your career here in the interview that really underscore that. Very quickly, before we go any further, I want to do some Castle Entertainment stuff. As you guys know, right now we're doing our modules. I'm working feverishly on modules for GaryCon 12, which I'll be attending here. I'm going to be doing 3 modules for that, again, from Dark Rose's Blackthorns Grow, in the City of the Elder Gods, and Squaring the Circle will be the 3 modules of Greyhawk I'm doing there. In the meantime, though, something very exciting that we're doing is Castle Entertainment is launching our official website. It is actually live right now for any of you who would like to go ahead and visit us, see what we're doing, maybe buy something if you find something that compels you. For anyone who's out there that's watching, we have a coupon right now, a 10% coupon. It's capital D Darlene. If you go ahead, you put it in there, you get 10% off. In deference to Our Lady of Gaming over there, I wanted to make sure I celebrated her properly with the coupon. So go ahead and get all your stuff over there. And if you want to go ahead and you want to support us on, if you want to go over there and support us on Castle Entertainment, our Patreon is now at the bottom of the screen, which is www.patreon.com/Castle Entertainment. Every month, depending on the tier that you're in, you can get 3 character sheets, full color art on them, all Greyhawk related, a monster of the month, a magic item of the month, a spell of the month, and a full mini module. And if you go high enough on it, you can actually get our modules sent to you on a bi-monthly basis, and you can even join our online game. Okay, Darlene. Are you ready to go with this interview based on everything I just said? And are you feeling good about this? You ready to bear the secrets of your career to the viewing audience?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. The first thing I want to talk to you about is a lot of my patrons out there and a lot of my friends are watching the show. they know you primarily from the Greyhawk map, and
Mhm.
we're huge Greyhawk enthusiasts. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, Greyhawk's design. You were an instrumental part of it, just by the development of the map, the way you laid things out, the way you presented the entire setting. That entitles you because you're in a very unusual spot. You can view the setting through the lens of the eyes of a woman who designed its first published map, and through somebody who was right there at the very beginning, really, for TSR at its formative days. You're one of TSR's first artists. You're the first woman ever to produce art for TSR, if I remember correctly.
Right.
As such, you've shaped Dungeons and Dragons indelibly as a whole. I mean, anyone who's out there has seen the Eye of the Beholder movie that's on Netflix right now. Darlene is actually in the movie. Uh, there's a reason why she was interviewed for that. I mean, she was a very instrumental part of this thing, and in a game that takes place largely in the mind, uh, you know, artists shape the way that we perceive the game. I'd like to ask you a little bit, first of all, then, going all the way back to the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your art background growing up.
Growing up.
Yeah, who'd you learn from?
Oh,
Who were
my
your
mother
early
was an
influences?
artist. My mother was an artist,
Hmm.
and one of the first things I got punished for was drawing on the walls. And so they decided to give me paper, and that was much better. But my mother was an artist, so I was around painting and stuff. And all of my mother's my sisters and I were artists, are artists. And so there was never any question about me being an artist. It was not something I discovered, it was something I grew up with.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. By the way, I'm in our in the Twitch feed right now. I'm getting a message over here. I love your new hat. I want to introduce my particular hat here right over here. This is actually the reason I'm wearing this is it's a gift from Darlene. Darlene, I believe you got this in Scotland for me.
No, but I don't. I can't remember where. But when I saw it, I thought, I know who gets it.
I wore this at Gary Con the next year that I saw her, and I'm wearing this in her honor over here. This is the rook on top of a rook tonight. So, also, somebody also mentioned that the unicorn that you drew in the player's handbook was another part of their big time experiences as a.
Yeah, that's my favorite
Is
one.
it your favorite piece?
Oh yeah, oh
Okay,
yeah.
that's um as far as your skill as a calligrapher
Mm.
and your early influences. First of all, let's go to your early influences. What are the artists that you gravitated to when you were younger?
The pre-Raphaelites,
Okay.
Art Nouveau,
Oh, okay.
uh, early children's book artists like Rackham and um, Dulac, Dumont. Let's see. Think early 20th century artists.
There is a definite when I see your work, I can see the nouveau quite a bit.
Yeah,
Particularly, there's some Munch influences I think in there.
yeah.
Um, I also see some pointillistic influences in there too as well.
Somewhat.
Pointillistic stuff, stuff like Seurat and people like that did pointillism.
Oh, that way. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I see a lot of that in some of your shading a lot. Um, as far as a calligrapher, what how did you begin doing calligraphy?
Well, I started when I was 10. They had something called a speedball book.
Oh yeah,
And
I
that's the
remember.
only thing you can, just looking through it and just trying to. I did horribly, but I kept at it. And then I figured out I had a chance to go to England, and I learned from one of the craft members of the proper way to do it. And so I was one of the people in that circle was ascribed to Queen Elizabeth. So I know I was getting pretty good instruction, and there's only three things you need to know: weight, angle, and form. And then you know everything you got.
Okay.
But you'd have to be shown how to do it. But I
it's interesting you should bring up weight because it's something I want to get back to when we talk about your Greyhawk map. Your line weight is of particular interest to me in there. But please continue.
is that a question?
Oh no, no, no! I'll be asking you about line weight a little bit later. No, keep
Okay.
going about the calligraphy. I was very interested in it.
Oh, well, I'm a book lover.
Okay.
I'm a manuscript lover. I had to have been a medieval monk because I think I really drew on something that I could not have possibly developed in this lifetime. Because I would be doing work and I would see my hands doing the scripts and I'm going, well, how the heck do I know how to do this? Well, I'm just going to go with it. But I don't know. There's some kind of a time warp thing. I don't
Okay.
know what to say.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I think I know what you mean. There's especially with books and when you're looking at artwork and calligraphy, you're transported a bit
Mm.
back, and I think that with artists, I think you can almost feel the resonance between yourself and the past a little bit, and other people that have done artwork.
You
I've
know, it's really interesting.
Mhm.
You just happen to. I was in a museum once, and it was in. I think it was in Egypt, and they had the Nagamidi Gospel
Okay.
script, and I looked at that and I wrote that, and it was like so familiar,
Oh wow.
and then I'm like, whoa, wait
Yeah,
a minute.
that's pretty heavy right there.
I wanted to grab it, but it was under glass. I'm like, wow, it's so heavy.
I can only imagine what the curators would have thought.
Yeah, really, it's mine.
Could
I'm
you tell
sorry
us a
for
little bit?
interrupting you.
Tell us a little bit about how you were introduced to TSR and to D&D in general.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I was working at something called graphic printing,
Okay.
and it's mostly doing design and design work.
Okay.
And a person by the name of Mike Carr came in the door, and I was assigned him. And he had something called a Gen Con that a big poster,
Hmm.
not a poster, a flyer that he just needed updating. And so I was the one updating it for him.
Okay.
And he would, come in and check it and then whatever. And by the end of the project, he asked me out on a date. And
If any of you have seen any of Darlene's Facebook photos, you'll know exactly why. Darlene was a stunning young woman. By the way, how old were you at this
was.
point in time? And I said you were a stunning young woman. You're now a stunning mature woman. Different.
All right. All right. Well, at any rate, Mike Carr, he was like maybe the sixth employee
Okay.
um, at TSR, and he took me into the William Street building and introduced, this is where I work, this is what I do, and then he had me bring some artwork up to Dave Sutherland, and he opened up the portfolio, and he just, I like this, I don't like this, I want. So the fat unicorn was one of those,
Okay.
and in fact the Paladin Rogues Gallery,
Yep. Rogues Gallery, Paladin Warhorse.
yeah, was one of those too.
Okay.
And you walk in the door, and there was Tim Kask, and then you go upstairs, and there was Dave Sutherland, and I didn't really go in. It was the basement was shipping,
Okay.
but I remember Tim Kask distinctly because he would put his feet up. And he had this big pipe that looked like um, Sherlock Holmes like big thing, and he'd start pontificating, and I thought, oh my God, Sure, why don't we go with it?
That's awesome. How?
And he knew calligraphy, and I thought, okay, we can talk.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. I
we hit
didn't
it
know
off
Tim
really,
did that.
really great. And you have to understand at that point in time how much the look of TSR products was a product of what was available printing cheaply. And so at the time, they're trying to get headings and headers. You only had like 3 fonts or 4 fonts totally, and to dress it up, Tim wanted me to do the lettering and the art. And so giving a really more organic look than you would have had otherwise was important for him. And it got me steady work. And that is part of contributing to the look of TSR. And then, of course, I did the logo, the wizard head logo
Right.
one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
At this point in time, were you did you have any actual impressions of the game, or had you gotten a chance to meet Gary yet at all?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Only because, see, I've been trying to figure that out when I first met him.
Okay.
It seems to me that I did some signage for him because
Okay.
I wasn't employed. I was doing everything because
Right.
I can. And I did signage, and I did signs for him, his at Dragonlands Arabians, which was in Clinton, Wisconsin, his home. I did some signage there. And so I had to have known him somehow at the beginning, but I can't remember the moment.
Right. Now you did actually the signage out that's currently outside of the horse area, right? As
Yeah,
well. Hmm.
yeah. And there was also a littler one with the Latin inscription on it of their arms. I did.
Oh, very, very cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. I'm learning stuff that I had no idea about at that point in time. Um, so could you tell me a little bit? You've told me a little bit about what it was, how you got involved with it. What was the culture at TSR like at that point in time? What was it? How was everybody? What was the friendship camaraderie like? Things like that.
Well, you have to, let's see, at the very, 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 very beginning,
Hmm.
before there was a lot of people, everything was pretty much a tight knit group.
Okay.
Everyone was friendly, but once the corporate beast got in there, things started to get different, started having an edge.
Right.
And there was factions being built, and I really didn't know what the deal was. I knew there was something going on. And so when you walked, for an artist to walk in that situation, you can feel it. And it was like walking on glass,
Mhm.
like, whoa.
It's not a
So
great environment for a creative to be in, I would imagine.
no, and I'm thinking that I hung out with the game designers. I didn't hang out with the artists.
Right.
And so, well, my car was a game designer, and then it just worked out that way. The editors and the wordsmiths.
Right.
And most of the people working at that point at TSR lived it 24/7. They worked together, they lived together, they played together, they ate together. I, I even at the time I thought, how the heck can they do that? But it was true. And to my way of thinking, you couldn't get away from the politics because you're with each other all the time.
I imagine you have to be a little bit guarded in your personal relationships too, because you don't know what's going to get out and what isn't.
Well, I was the victim of some malicious gossip.
Right.
And and I left Lake Geneva when I discovered that people I didn't even meet had an opinion about me.
Mm.
And and it had nothing to do with who I am. And I thought, oh geez, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's too
Yeah.
much. I can
So I,
assure you here, though, in this chat, I'm looking right now at some people out here in the audience that are talking, and everybody is you're among friends here that have a very good opinion of you.
thank you.
So that's
Thank,
awesome. I want to know a little bit about your creative spark here. In particular, you have an official job with TSR at this point, okay? That
no, I
has to,
didn't. I
well,
was,
you have a job at least as a freelancer for TSR
yeah,
at that point.
okay. I just want to make sure I was never employed.
No, 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 exactly.
Oh,
I misspoke a little bit there, but
okay, all right.
being around in that environment, in that environment with all those creatives there, with the artists there, that you're seeing stuff constantly, how did that change the way you viewed fantasy artwork, and what were you able to learn from your time at the company?
I didn't really see any of the other artists'
Okay,
work. I only delivered my own.
okay,
So I I saw it after the fact when we were at Gen Con and I'd see the boxes and stuff, but I didn't pay any attention to what everyone else
got it.
was doing. So I can't help you on that regard. And as far as fantasy art, like I say, I was in my own little world.
Mhm.
I was influenced by like the list I told you before,
Sure.
and I stuck to that.
Well, in a way, though, that answers the question though too, in a way, because we talked a little bit about you were a monk in a previous life. That really falls into that aesthetic, though. You're in your you seriously. I know personally when I'm creating as a writer, I don't read because I don't like being influenced. I don't want to sound like someone else's voice. And in a
Right.
way, I think maybe your art came out to be a little bit more truer, Darlene, because you weren't being influenced as well. I mean, I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but I perhaps it seems to reason to me that that would be how it would work.
Well, I'm sure if I were sitting there, I would be,
Right.
with the group, but
So
no, I wasn't influenced.
now we're going to talk a little bit about
Okay.
this document right here. The document that changed so many people's lives out there, including my own. Um, First of all, as a creator of the setting's first published map, okay, you're a hugely important figure in the development of the world for us. I mean, again, I mentioned it before that, in a game that takes place largely in the theater of the mind, like Dungeons and Dragons does, artists really shape our perceptions of the way the world works. For
Yeah.
example, um, we wouldn't know what rust monsters look like unless Dave Sutherland had drawn that in the monster manual. Okay. Um, so you have a very specific niche in our hearts here as creator of that map. Um, Also, you did stuff, as we mentioned before, for Dungeon Master's Guide, Rogue's Gallery, Dragon Magazine. Um, how did you actually land the job to get the map?
Well, this I didn't know until this year.
Big time
So
scoop here, everyone.
Alan Hammock, another person I dated, he said that he said to Dave Sutherland, if you don't get Darlene to do that map, you're a fool, or something like that. And because here I thought it was my car that got me. He says, no, it wasn't. It was me. I thought, okay, I didn't know. But yeah, so Alan, I got it through Alan Hammock's referral,
Okay.
and I was given a two size illustration board with the hexes already on there. So I didn't have to screw with that. But what was really interesting is that when the map was all done, they had to go to Madison, which is 3 hours away, to get a camera that was big enough to take the picture so that there wouldn't be any warping
Right.
towards the edges. You don't think about that stuff.
No, you definitely don't. As a guy who's doing publication right now, I have an art piece from Jeff Easley that I'm doing for the cover of Fireland, and I can attest to you the difficulties sometimes in taking photos of art. So, because Jeff works in oil, and Amanda, my wife, and I were working so hard. She was working so diligently on trying to make sure there was no flash on it. From you weren't getting light sources from it. So it is a challenge for sure. Why do you feel like that? Well, going back a little bit, let me take a step back to what you just said. The creation of the map, my understanding is that was actually done in a pretty unique manner as far as how you had to actually create it. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Well, it's not unique if you know what standard graphic design was back then. But
I don't, so it's unique to me.
All right, I'll explain it to you. So I have the bottom layer, which is the hex, or the black, where the black's going to go. And then they take an acetate sheet over that, and then you have like hairline things to line them up, and then you take color sheets and lay it over and cut around the edges to put in. So in other words, if I had the mountains, I would lay this adhesive sheet on the acetate, and then I would cut out and then I would do like the next sheet over on this side. And it was really tedious to try to get all of that together.
That's crazy. And the entire time you're having to lay on the map, I imagine, to actually do that, right?
Yeah, especially.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. What do you think about first of all, I've got some people that you may know out in the audience right now. Anna Meyer is out there right now saying hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Anna is a huge enthusiast of yours, as you know.
Hi, Anna.
I'm seeing that some other things over here that you're being lauded out there in the audience right now as we speak by our different viewers. What do you think it is that the map has resonated so strongly with game enthusiasts?
Well, I have a theory about that.
Okay.
All right, I might as well say it.
Yeah, say it. You're among friends here.
I might as well say it.
And I can always, and anything controversial you say that you regret, I can edit it out later in post-production.
I think it's because I put myself in it. I channeled energy, and it's all about energy. And when you work with intense focus, but you put in love with it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it cannot help but be felt.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's a certain spiritual quality that artists have, a connection with the pieces that they do, and the true masterpieces I think that are out there in the art world right now. You hear almost uniformly what you've just said from artists, that there's a piece of themselves in it. And you think that's probably why people feel that so strongly?
I think so.
So what you just told me though is something you and I talked about. You just proved something about that I told you one time when we were first meeting, and that's your audience loves you. And the reason I say that is because you know how many people love that map. If there's a piece of you in there, your audience loves that piece of you.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind whenever you feel neglected. Let me ask you a question. This is a personal question that just comes from me, and I'm sure the audience would love to know this. All right? I'm sure Anna out there, if you're out there, Listen close, all right?
Uh-oh.
Darlene, if somebody were to approach you with a creation of a Greyhawk map beyond the known borders of the world, would you be willing to entertain such a commission?
I'll entertain it.
You heard it out there, folks. Right now, Darlene, as I mentioned before, is doing a lot of current good, cool work that's relevant, and it's awesome. And that is something that we could, as a community,
Yeah,
if we
but
were
don't you
interested in
think
doing.
people are tired of it?
No way. No way. We're not tired of it. We're not tired of you. And having your everybody knows that I'm working on the worst kept secret in the publishing world, which is Fireland right now. Um,
What? Really?
but the reason, yeah, exactly. The reason I reached out to you before is because your work not only conveys so much energy and positive memory to everyone, but there's a certain cachet to having a Darlene piece associated with your project. For us to have a complete world map with that was done by Darlene, I can't help but feel like everybody in the community would be like, okay, no matter what this looks like, it's official. And I'm looking down at the list of the chat right now, and I'm seeing more, 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 never enough. Yeah. so, so yeah, absolutely, Darlene. That's something that I think the community would love to see. Um,
Well,
how would you approach that kind of a task?
well, I can't do it the way I did it before.
Okay,
It's got to be on computer now.
sure.
And it might be really expensive because I have rheumatoid arthritis and I
Hmm.
can't work very long on the computer before my hand freezes up.
Right.
So I have to be very judicious in what I choose to do
Hmm.
so that to save my. I've been doing quite well lately, so I'm really happy that Chinese medicine is working.
That's outstanding to hear.
Yeah.
Um, as far as your design philosophy goes, with respect to the Greyhawk map and things like that, okay. And when I say that, I'm talking about your personal aesthetic. What do you think is essential in order to capture the spirit and the feel of of the thing?
Are you talking about a map?
The map, yeah. Hmm.
Okay. I approach the map like a painting.
Okay.
And practical. So one of the things I kept in mind was that there were not going to be any arguments about what that hex was. So I was very careful to make sure that there was no ambiguity.
Okay.
And then I made sure that when I put the words in, the words never went. I got to do it right on the hex so that when you could read it and have the hex both seen.
Right.
And so the placement and the juxtaposition of different shapes, it was like an abstract painting.
Okay.
And with the black making one kind of texture, and then the letters making another kind of texture, and then you have the sizes going in and out, and the rivers, etc. But I forgot what I was. Here I'm really going back into the map. I forgot the question.
It's totally fine. I'm just enjoying hearing you speak. And as a matter of fact, one of our viewers out there, a huge supporter of Castle Entertainment's Gaetano, is saying, so much feeling, spiritual essence that empowers and sets our hearts free. So you're definitely conveying exactly what you want to do right here.
Oh, okay.
So please continue. I'm just enjoying hearing you speak about the feelings and the things that you think are essential in order to get the feel right.
Well, yes, okay. I believe in the power of beauty.
Hmm.
I I think the power of beauty speaks, and if something is beautiful, the aesthetic is right, the harmony and balance, and it becomes it transforms you into another space.
Right.
And I wanted the map to be beautiful.
The greatest art out there, I feel like, has this transcendent quality in it that
Yeah.
takes you to another place. And clearly, this map is one such document. It takes us to someplace different, someplace that maybe we've always longed to be but never existed, but suddenly, because of the artwork, does exist to us. And I think that that's what you've managed to capture. You've actually managed to, you know, in a way, when I we joke around a lot, and I call you Our Lady, and I'm your prophet, and I call you the goddess a bit.
I
Uh,
was wondering if you were going to
I'm not.
mention.
Well, yeah. If you've ever my private correspondences with Darlene, I refer to myself as her prophet because I've always been out there trying to spread the word about her and what she brings to the table and how much she means to me, both as a creator and a person.
You have yet to give me one prophecy.
I will give you a prophecy at the end of this, and it's actually a really big one. So stay
Okay.
tuned. But I also got to give the viewers a little teaser why they need to stick around. So it's showbiz. It's showbiz. But anyway, I call you the goddess a little bit, but there's a truth to that. And the reason I say that is because you gave birth to this world like a god does. Gary did the words and created all this stuff, sure. But for us that view it, and as I mentioned before, the visual component is huge to people. You really did give birth to the world in a fundamental way. Um, so I got to ask you now that it's all said and done. It's in retrospect in the rearview mirror. What are you most proud of when it comes to the map?
The lettering.
The lettering. And what would you say your biggest regret is with it? Something if you had a do over with it, what would you do?
I think I'd clean up some of the mountains.
Okay.
When I had to do everything on a surface that couldn't be erased.
Right.
So everything on that map is no mistakes.
Right.
So if I put a line in, it had to stay there.
Right.
And so when I'm doing the mountains and stuff, if I would take out some of the lines and pretty it up some, but
Right.
there was
A little bit later in our interview, I'm going to talk about your artistic process, and we're going to talk a little bit about how technology has changed that necessity to do things in
undos,
one
yes.
take. Right, right. It's one of my best friends. I know that when I'm doing stuff, and I'm not nearly the talent you are. So let's go a little bit beyond your experience with the Greyhawk map. Okay, we're going to go off the board a little bit. I want to talk a little bit first of all about let's talk a little bit about Jasmine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and for those of you guys who don't know, go ahead, Darlene, explain Jasmine to everyone, and I'm going to flash up your Patreon a little bit where people can go ahead and support Jasmine and support your personal projects. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. All right, Jasmine. Well, it did. Okay, the game. There are 4 factions: a Jasmine faction, a Bardolph, Thorgal, and Melantha. Each one has different strengths and weaknesses. So if you play one or the other, it'll be a different game for you. I have cards that are the faction cards, and then I have event and special cards when you play it. The object of the game is to either get 3 magical items in your castle or decimate everyone.
For those of you who are collectors too of artwork, of Darlene's work, there's a lot of beautiful, as I mentioned, Darlene artwork in these that you can definitely pick up, and there's stuff that you can really enjoy a great deal. The format of this is a little bit smaller than you would say in the that she did in the monster cards, but yet it's really enjoyable. And could you tell us a little bit about where Jasmine comes from? Tell me about the genesis of her origin in Dragon Magazine and things like that.
Okay. I don't know when it started,
Mhm.
but I heard an argument in my head between two women, and I'm like, what's going on here? And they would be quipping back and forth. One of them was a magic user, one of them had a sword, and I'm thinking, and the thing was about, I don't know. At any rate, I started writing it down, and then more and more came up, and then I thought, oh, there's a story here. And the story was coming in different, it wasn't linear.
Okay.
So I would get snatches here and snatches there, and I would write it down, and then suddenly I thought, oh, I know how this goes together. This goes here and this goes here, and I was creating a story, and I'm not quite sure how I got it in Dragon magazine, but I did.
Yeah.
And only for 1 year.
No, that's true. That's true. But it was very impactful, I think, on a lot of viewers and a lot of readers. And I know myself, for example,
Oh,
a
you
lot of
really?
a lot of your Dragon magazine work is, I think, is some like, for example, 37. The cover of it that you did is absolutely astonishing. It's just like a stained glass painting almost.
Well, I noticed everyone was using brown
Okay.
for the cover. I thought, brown, let's get some color in here. So that's why I did that way. And now I was told by another fan that he equates the unicorn on the cover with Jasmine. And I thought, I had never equated them before, but I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can see how you'd get that. Oh, I guess that means there's going to be a unicorn in the story.
Yeah, I kind of draw that connection myself, actually, the more that you say it.
Oh, okay.
As far as your Dragon magazine or your Dungeon Master's Guide work goes, there's more than just the unicorn in there as well. For example, the writer that is in negative that is on one of the
Oh,
pages.
yeah, you like that one.
That's my personal favorite. I love that. It looks to me like it's done in Scratchboard, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And also, you did as well as that, you did the full page layout of the adventuring party.
Mhm.
There was so much detail in that piece; it's beyond belief.
Well, that one was influenced by Aubrey Beardsley
Okay.
a little bit, and maybe Art Nouveau too. Well,
Okay.
there was.
I can see the Nouveau influence a little bit in the armor and the elf that she's
Yeah,
wearing. She's wearing
yeah,
a
yeah.
piece of chainmail, and I can see it in that. How did those pieces? How were they selected for Dungeon Master's Guide? How did you end up in the book?
Well, like I said, Dave bought some pieces before anything just to have, and then they would give me a list of sizes and content, and he says, I want my cat's trying to jump.
That's okay. They can guest star on the show.
Well, no, he would jump,
Okay.
shaking everything. All right, where was I?
How you got it in the book and the sizes and the subjects.
Oh yeah, and he said, well, I want blah 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 blah, and it usually was be a sentence, and then I would do that and deliver it.
Okay. And how long would you say that those pieces took you to do?
Oh my goodness. Usually he'd either give me a week or a couple weeks, depending. It
Awesome.
wouldn't be like I need it in a day. It
Right.
wasn't like that.
Okay. I was wondering a little bit about what the time frame because I know that they were working a lot under some deadline restraints back then, and I wondered how much that influenced the artists.
Well, deadlines always influence artists.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember ever missing one.
No, I don't think you ever did either, from what I've heard. I've heard that you were pretty reliable as far as that goes. So, this dovetails well into our conversation about your artistic process in general. Um, you're a singular artistic talent, and you've got a unique and enduring style. Tell me a little bit about your process. How do you, from birth to death, what do you generally do?
I read whatever it is they want,
Okay.
and I read it, and then I forget about it. Do something else entirely, like clean the bathroom or something. And then while I'm in the midst of doing something else totally unrelated, the idea would come.
Okay.
Now I know. And then I'd sit down and do it. I
I'm
mean,
getting a question going back to the some of the pieces that you did back for Dungeon Master's Guide. I
uh-huh.
think. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. You were in the middle of saying something. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm listening to you.
Okay. Yeah. How large or small were the originals that you worked on for those Dungeon Master's Guide pieces?
To size.
Okay. They were exactly to scale then. And what was the
Yeah, they were maybe a 90% reduction,
okay.
but they weren't big, no.
Okay. And what size do you usually prefer to work on?
8.5 by 11,
Okay.
not bigger than that.
Okay. So you're
But
going
it
ahead
gets
and
it
you
better on computer.
yeah, that's true. Nowadays. I guess I meant originally.
I would, I learned that the best thing is 100%.
Mhm.
To do it two sides, then you'll know exactly what you're getting.
Okay. Uh,
Exactly. But I didn't know, there are some in the DMG that I might have done bigger
okay.
because the printing is so bad, you can't see the thin lines.
Right.
It's just really bad. So I'm wondering if those were larger, and I don't know.
Okay. Now you just hit upon it again, and let's talk a little bit about your feelings about digital versus traditional media. You're doing a lot of computer work right now. Do you
Mhm.
prefer it that way, if you
Yeah,
didn't have a
yeah,
physical
sure,
limitation?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's it's a tool. I find, okay, I use my hand the same way with a mouse
Mhm.
as I do with a brush, only I don't have cleanup.
Yeah.
And I don't have to wash, I don't have to, I don't have, it's just easier, and the undos are great.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, you can't beat the undos. You can't undo something in watercolor. The only thing you can do is put more on top.
Right. Right. Jeff Easley was telling me a little bit about that when we were talking about the piece he did for me. That oil was a little more forgiving like that. That you could
Oh,
just yeah
definitely.
you could stack a little bit easier. What kind of thing? Where do you draw right now? When you do your current work, where are you drawing inspiration from?
Nature.
Nature. Uh,
Sometimes, sometimes I'll see a juxtaposition of color that, oh, I got to remember that. Um, where do I draw my inspiration from? Just life, I guess.
okay.
I don't really have a specific things. Beauty. That's what I say. If I see something, I'm on the internet, and it's a photo, and I'm going, oh wow, that's great. I'll I'll grab it and put it in a file. And sometimes all of those files that I grab, I'll just take a look at them and see if they generate some ideas. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
They're
There's
called a
something
swipe file.
I
You
deal with a lot of artists doing publication, and one
uh
thing I'm fascinated by is there's a phenomenon that I call visual memory. And artists, for example, you'll bring up a character to them, like I don't know, we'll say for just random character worn his star coat, and I'll bring him up and I'll look at the artist. I'll say, what side does his belt buckle face? 90% of the time, they know exactly what side the belt buckle faces, or they'll know what side of his hat the feather is on. I know the character pretty well. I could do that in a million years. But you artists seem to have this way of absorbing the visual world around you and processing it in a way that us mortals cannot really work with. Would you say that that's similar to you?
Yeah. Keep talking.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think that that's visually. I think it's very interesting phenomenon that you're able to process. I think the artistic brain works a lot differently than maybe mine does. There's a
But visual, you have to think visually.
mhm.
And there are visual thinkers, there are linear thinkers, there are lateral thinkers, and I think artists are lateral thinkers, and some of them are visual thinkers. And what I mean by, and some of them are spatial thinkers. What I mean by visual thinking is that when you're looking at the world, you're not seeing a truck, you're seeing red and blue and pretty much maybe like Van Gogh.
Okay,
Yeah, of how the different or a shape or the way the a shadow falls. I mean, it's poetry, and if you could take that magic and somehow put it into the art so that the person receiving it has the same feeling of that magic, then you've got something there.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, one of my viewers right now is mentioning Darlene has that mind's eye that expresses itself so that when we see her art, it looks natural to us, like there was no other way you could imagine it. So I think that's very much what you're referring to.
Oh, wow, that's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Whoever.
my again my good buddy Gaetano over there, who's a huge enthusiast of your work. Um, and I agree with him. I see those things and yeah, it's so real to me in a visceral sense that there's no other way I would. That's how it is. I don't think of it as an interpretation of something. It's just real
Oh,
to
wow.
me. Um, okay, so you're out there right now. This video is going to be in perpetuity in YouTube for people out there to watch. And I'm sure
Oh,
that I get a lot of viewers that watch this offline later on as befits their schedule. Some of them I expect to be a young would-be professional artists. For those that are trying to attempt to break into the world of professional fantasy art, what kind of advice would you give them?
just keep practicing. Learn as much as you can. If you don't know much about anatomy, find out. If you don't know about mixing colors, do it. If you don't know, it's the sky's the limit, and y'all don't have any excuse. We had excuses back then. We couldn't do, you could only do certain things in a certain way because of the technology at that point was restrictive.
Right.
But now everything's opened up. You got more than enough images to go by, and we didn't have any of that. Stop it. We
When
didn't
I
have any of it.
when I was a young man, I'm about ready to turn 50 here in about 2 months, and
You're
I just
still,
remember what it was like when I was younger.
yeah.
And if I wanted to learn something, I have to go to the library or something like that, or I have to learn it in school. And sometimes I find that my mind is still in that paradigm. Like I'm looking at something in my car. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I got to figure out how this. Wait a second. Why don't I go on YouTube? I forget sometimes that the tools are there, and I
Right
think that's what
there,
you're.
right.
I think that's what you're describing it as for these artists that they're young up and comers. They can really benefit a lot from the wisdom around them from many of these other avenues. Uh,
Well, it just depends on how devoted you are and how much you're hungry for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your passion obviously was and still is for art in all of its various forms. What was your favorite different kind of medium to work with? Because I've seen different kinds of art from you using various
Yeah,
media.
yeah. At a certain, different ones in different phases.
Mhm.
There was a certain point I really liked color pencil, and then there was a phase where I liked doing the hatch work on with a crow quill pen.
I
And I
forgive you.
liked scratchboard for a while,
Uh-huh.
but I think I like digital.
Okay. Okay. At least
And
that's the period that you're in right now until we can.
that's the period I'm in right now. Yes.
Right. Now, for those of you who are watching us right now on Twitch or who will watch us on YouTube, you'll notice the graphics that I'm using tonight, and I use for caslTawk. The font that I use right now is called Greyhawk Gothic font, and it was created by none other than the woman that you're watching right here with me, Darlene. Um, Greyhawk Gothic font was created as a fan project. Anna Meyer actually commissioned Darlene to do that,
She
and
did. She did.
I want everybody to know that what you're seeing over here is another example of her current work that all of you, oh, look at the cutie.
Yeah.
All of you out there, if you're interested in commissioning something from Darlene, you see the Patreon URL at the bottom of our screen right now, or you can reach out to her through Facebook or something like that. She's, obviously uh, artisting for their supper. And I think it's making sure that we continue to patronize her work and that we make sure that she still has a platform to give voice to the emotions that she's feeling. I think that's really important for an artist that we all love and respect so much. So tell us about our co-star over here that we've got.
You
Your
mean
cat.
Milo?
I know you're a huge cat enthusiast. Tell me a little bit about your cat.
Oh, well, my big old boy here. He's a rescue. Him and his sister. I think a pack of coyotes came by and they decimated 4 cats within the space of a month.
Ugh.
And so when I came, and I went on a trip after this had happened, and I came back to a cold, empty house, and I said, "Oh no, I got to get a cat in here." So I went to the Humane Society, and he came up to me, and I thought, okay. And they said, "No, you got to get his sister too. You just can't have him. You can't break up a pair. You got a 2-for-1 deal." He says, "No, but they did." Then I thought, well, that's fine. Him and his sister, that's good. And so I took them both, and they were the longest cats. They were spent 3 years in a cage in the Humane Society.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it took my big old boy here 9 months to settle down. Well, now he's my lover boy. Yes. But and then I got a kitten. She's not a kitten anymore. She tells me she's a big girl now. She's only a year. And I wanted him to find his inner kitten because he had never been a kitten before, and he did about a week ago. I saw you playing
Oh, that's
with
awesome.
boy.
So you're part Sekhmet and part Bastet as well, I see.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So Darlene, where for your fans and friends out there, where can we see you in public appearances besides caslTawk?
The only places I go, there's two. Um, Gary Con and North Texas.
Absolutely. For those out there that are watching that are convention promoters and people like that, would you be interested in doing other shows as well?
Sure, if you can afford me.
Yes, I think that anybody that would that anyone that would
Well, it would be, I would need to have, to get there,
sure.
and I would need to have a place to stay.
Hmm.
And I usually have a per diem.
Hmm. I think that
And
anybody that would want you at the show would obviously extend you
do
the
that.
respect to make
Yeah,
sure those things were taken care of.
right, right.
I just wanted to make sure that out there that all of our viewers that had interest in such a thing knew that you were available for those kind of
Oh, yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that part of the with caslTawk, one of the things I like to do is not only do I want to talk about the past and what accomplishments artists and writers have had in the past. But I think it's really important to celebrate the things that you're doing right now and to make sure that everybody knows out there that, you know, time, we tend to, especially as old school D&Ders, tend to think of things in a time capsule.
Yeah,
But time doesn't exist like that. These people that are creators and friends that we've had, that we're the children of throughout their creative projects. Life has gone on too, and they do things currently. And I want to make sure everybody knows that you're where you can be reached and how they can reach out to you because you're so important to so many of us out there. Um, Now, as far as my prophecy goes, I know you wanted one, and I've been hold on for just a second. Let me make sure that I'm properly channeling
oh my
the
goodness.
Raven King right now to get my prophecy done because I am the prophet of Darlene. I'm prophesizing that in the next 2 years there will be a groundswell of fan support that will see you commission a proper Greyhawk world map. I am seeing it happen. And you've heard it here first on caslTawk through Casl Entertainment with Darlene here with the crow as my witness. I have spoken. That is my prophecy. I know it's happening. I can feel it just as I feel it in my bones. And judging out there by the reaction that I'm getting in my crowd, I'm seeing that people also agree with me that that would be well received.
Huh. Wow.
So yeah, absolutely. Anna Meyer, I agree. Amanda, ooh, the prophet has spoken. I've got some interest in what your cats' names are as well. What are your cats' names?
Mila, Milo, and Maya.
Okay, nice, nice. A lot of M's there.
Mmm.
Mm. That's what I'm. That's what the fans are going to say when that Greyhawk map drops. Mm. Yeah, because I would definitely, for those of out there that are in the community watching, and I know there's a lot of you. I think that's a kind of a project that I think would be something that that we should all get behind and we should drive and it's something that we can definitely talk about at GaryCon when we're in the future of Greyhawk group all together. In fact,
All
maybe we
right,
could even
all
make
right.
time to do so with Darlene herself, with the artist herself. So, Darlene, is there anything out there that you'd like to get that you'd like to tell the audience, tell your fans or your friends out there that are watching? Any kind of messages you'd like to give them?
Oh, this is the old one. I do coloring books,
Ah,
so I don't know. I decided to give back to the community, and I thought, well, why not coloring books? I was at a Gary Con, and this little girl gave me a little unicorn, and it was so sweet, and I gave her one of mine.
mm-hmm.
And then I started looking around. I thought, there's nothing here for children, really.
Not
And
really.
so I thought, what can I do? Oh, a coloring book. So I had done this one first. I don't know if you can read it. And it's
There's a
great.
little bit of glare on it.
Yeah, this and this was mostly my old artwork scooped out.
Mhm.
But I found out, I took that coloring book to a women's empowerment group, and they just went, oh my God, I want to be a mermaid. And I thought, oh my God, the same demographic liking my work is empowered women and the daughters of fantasy gaming.
Right.
Whoa, all right. And then I started thinking more and more and more and more and more about it. And I thought, oh, I get it. If I do it the right way, I can have those little girls empower themselves through coloring.
Right.
Get the attributes of the picture, if you know, that I put in there. Just from the act of coloring it, they are bringing that out in themselves. And so I've been experimenting doing just that. And I've come up with more and more projects that would help, such as the Enneagram. Dancing the Enneagram is another thing I'm doing. The Enneagram is a transformative modality where you have 9 personality types and you figure out where you are, and it helps you maneuver through relationships, because you'll understand how a different personality type deals with a question, the same situation, but they'll have a different take on it. And when you understand that take, you can resolve things quite easily. And so I decided to use coloring for that as well, so that if I know that I need joy in my life, I would choose the page maybe of dolphins or something, and then I would color and try to get that essence. And
Where
so I've
can
been
your fans
experimenting with that lately. What?
where can your fans purchase these different books?
Oh, okay. Geez. The coloring books, where is it? Oh my goodness, where did I put that thing? Here we go. This is Dancing the Enneagram.
Okay.
Let's see. And the coloring page, firesignCreations.com/Darlene
Awesome.
for Color Me Powerful and Color Me Free. And then the Patreon, and where was the other one? Oh, yeah. Dancing the Enneagram is godarlenemarketing.com/DTE buy.
Okay.
But maybe it's
Okay. And as for the other coloring books that you did, the fantasy coloring books,
yeah.
where can those can be purchased at the same place?
Firesign.
Okay, awesome.
Fireside Creations are doing my printing for the coloring book.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know that some people that out there are going to be wanting to purchase some coloring books for
yes. If you're on Facebook, at the moment I have a special 15% off for Black Friday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's the first thing up. Go to my name. It's there with just click on the link, and even if you don't buy it, you can read about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you guys go ahead and you go get it, I'm sure that if you meet her at GaryCon or at a North Texas show, she'd be happy to sign it for you as well. Darlene's really super approachable. She's a great friend and not only a great creator and a great artist, but a great friend as well. And I can't say enough good things about her. Um,
Aw.
oh, it's no problem, Darlene. I'm pleased to be able to have you here on the show, taking part in this, and you're a big part of my life. You're a big before I even knew you. You were a big part of my life. I told Darlene when I first met her that it's weird the way that you envision people. I had this envision of her. There's a drawing that she did of a witch in Dungeon Magazine, where she's very gothic and kind of dark haired and kind of a brooding character. And I would meet her, and she's totally different. Absolutely. So,
Oh,
I
but I was brooding.
you were
I was,
brooding when I first met
oh,
you, but at the same time, I mean, it's been a revolution. I mean, it seems like everything has changed so much for you, and I'm as a friend of yours, I couldn't be more pleased to see it, and I'm glad that you're back out there and you're doing such good, vital work, and that everybody has a chance to to celebrate you the way you should be.
well, you could thank Tim Kask. He sort of encouraged me to be out there more. And he sort of gave me a talking to, and he says, listen, you've been gone for 30 years and you haven't done one thing to be out there. And still people remember you. What do you think that tells you? And well, I guess they like me.
So we were at the first Gary Con together, Darlene and I, and
Yeah.
I was acting as her chauffeur for the evening, and I dropped her off at the lodge, and she went and she talked to Tim. I remember picking her up to take her back to the hotel because she was rooming with us at the time, my wife and I. And I remember this conversation very vividly after Tim had said this to you. And I just remember the look on your face. You're so energized, and I can't help but, look reflecting on that to some degree. It's so true. I mean, 30 years gone, and think about, you've got a room full of people here that are watching this live that tuned in not because of me. They can see me anytime they want to, but they're here for you. And I think that, the resonation of your work and the kind of person you are, it's, uh, it's got to feel gratifying to you, but it's also got to be an affirmation to you of the difference you've made in people's lives.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Any questions out there from the audience for Darlene? Anybody want? Let's see. I have. Thank you, Darlene, for what you've done and what you're still doing. The Cascoid speaketh true. Uh, I remember that's a funny conversation. Darlene invited me to one of the TSR our first year at GaryCon. She says, "Why don't you come with me to this TSR get together?" I said, "Okay, fine. Will it matter that I'm not a TSR? Nah, you're with me. Okay, great." So we go to this TSR thing, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and Tim Kask walks up, and I'd never met him before, so I was like, "Darlene, who's this guy?" She goes, "Oh, that's Tim Kask." And the first thing I thought to myself was, I've heard that he can be a little bit crusty. I wonder how this is going to go. The first thing he did is he looked at Darlene, looked up at me, looked at Darlene, goes, "Who's this?" I was just like, and Darlene says, "Oh, this is my friend." I was like, they just ignored me for the rest of the conversation, talked to Darlene. That was my first interaction with Tim Kask. He's
Talk
quite
about Tim.
for those
Stop.
of you who have met him in person, he's quite a character. Darlene, he was a big champion of yours back in those early dungeon day or dragon days, right?
He gave me work.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did. I guess you champion and that.
Well, I should say that he's one of the driving forces that got you the
Oh yeah,
work
yeah,
in the
that, yeah,
magazine,
yeah,
is what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah.
Now Tim actually, I know that we've talked about this in the past, and I know you had a lot about this at GaryCon during your seminar, and women in the TSR climate early in the day. It must have been nice to have somebody on your side like Tim.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But all of that sexual stuff went over my head.
Yeah.
I wasn't focused on that. It was only after the fact that I would, be thinking about things afterward and going, well, wait a minute. What did they mean when they said that?
Yes.
I usually took things at face value,
Right. Hmm.
and I was much, much too sensitive. I was really green. I didn't know much about life at all,
Hmm.
even though I went to college and all that. And which, when TSR turned corporate, it really was a shocker to me that how people can change with authority. And I forgot my original point. Well, at any rate, nope, it's gone.
That's okay. It's all right. Maybe I'll come back to you as we talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that I just got an email or a Facebook message actually. Somebody asked me, could you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Gary himself?
I didn't have a relationship with Gary at the time in the 80s.
Okay.
My relationship with him happened in 2005,
Okay.
I think. He got in contact with me. Let's see, how does this work? Heidi worked with the mother of my husband's friend. And somehow the conversation happened that, oh, this is the, so he emails me and he says, hey, whatever happened to you? And so we got on really well with the emails. And then when I would visit in Lake Geneva, I'd stay with him, my husband and I, and we hit it off quite well, but this was way after the
Okay.
fact.
It's interesting to me that you didn't really have the huge relationship at the beginning, yet he would think to reach out to you. That again, it just speaks to how your work resonates with
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I found out that he fought, and that was the word that was given me. He fought for that unicorn on the DMG. He wanted that there against somebody's objections.
I have a suspicion who that somebody might be, but they will
Well,
remain nameless in this conversation. And no, you guys can't pry it out of me, viewers. I'm not going to badmouth anyone. So, but yeah, that's it's interesting that he would feel that way. I did he ever tell you why that particular that image captivated him?
no,
No.
no.
Um.
I, I found this out after the fact, and I forgot the person who told me.
Okay.
So I'm finding a lot of stuff out after the fact.
Well,
But it
it
doesn't matter
again, it's
anymore.
interesting. I mean, you lived on one side of it as kind of cloistered away from the internal politics and the
I
because
tried,
yeah, you
yeah,
mentioned that. And so it stands to reason that a lot of this is just filtering back to you at this
yeah,
point in time.
yeah.
Um, so that's pretty cool in a way. I mean, it kept you away from some of the, I would imagine, some of the uglier parts of TSR that you end up hearing that ended up happening as time would go on.
I would be incensed of what they did to the creative people. How can they do that? This is their bread and butter. Why would they treat people like that? I never understood. I still don't. Corporations still treat creative people like shit.
It's
It's
true.
amazing to me.
It's true, and it's all in the pursuit of. It's so funny. I mean, you read about it every day that these corporations, their earnings are in the billions of dollars, and yet they're so willing to cut someone's throat over minuscule amounts of money compared to that.
Oh yeah. It's like, what?
When you're making millions, what's 100?
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Some things I'm getting out here in the crowd again from people. I was actually your minion at the TSR thing. Yes, I would say that, and I wouldn't say was. I continue to be Darlene's minion. I would throw that out there. I may be the Raven King, but she might be the Raven Empress, I guess. Um, People make things complicated. So yeah, Castle's a gig. Someone mentions a great map of Igsburg and East Mark.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Loved your seminar at GaryCon last year, Darlene. Especially loved seeing all the old reference photographs you modeled for. For those
Thank
of
you.
you out there who have not seen, did not see Darlene's presentation at her seminar at GaryCon, could you tell Darlene the crowd what what she's talking about when she mentions that the photos?
Are you talking about the one with Alan Hammock and me doing Camelot?
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Alan Hammock has green tights on,
Okay.
and
It,
I'm
it,
sure
it,
he'd be mortified.
yeah, it's a good one, and you'll notice out there, in the interest of having possibly Alan on this show at some point in time in the future, you'll notice that I've refrained from posting that picture.
Oh, post it.
No, I can't do Alan like that. I barely know the man. Um,
No, no, no. If you know Alan, he'd be really happy to be shown with me.
oh well, okay. In that case, I will make sure that I have a cut scene in the Alan
Or you could
episode.
go above where the tights are, maybe.
No, I don't think so. Now that you've said that, no, I think I'm going to go all the way with it. Well,
Well, he
Darlene,
dated both my sister and me,
okay,
so it was all in the family.
okay, awesome. Well, Darlene, based on everything that looks like we're having a little bit of a technical issue right here on Twitch. Our faces have disappeared. Can you hear me, Darlene?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. I don't know what has happened here, but looks like we're frozen up on Twitch or on
Okay.
Let me try this again. Hold on for just a moment. Having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. In any case, you'll notice that I've named this episode of caslTawk Maps and Legends. And there's a reason why I've done that, because we've got maps here from Darlene that she has created, and we certainly have legends, and that is her as well. Darlene, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this, letting your public see you. Um, Even though we can't see anybody right now on the screen, I don't know why that's happened, but I think we're going to go ahead, and I will we'll sign off for the evening on that. Darlene, again, thank you so much for coming on. Anyone who's interested in supporting her Patreon, even though you can't see her face, you can definitely see the link right now on the screen. And Darlene, if you'll stick around on Zoom for just a while after this, I'll like to say a few words before we sign off for the evening. But for everybody, this has been caslTawk for this week. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back here in about a month with another special guest, and you won't want to miss them. I don't think that particular guest will be wearing green tights, but in the future it could happen. So for everyone out there and all of your Darlene's fans, thanks so much, and see you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.